I am so glad you convinced me that the family car should be the Defender 110. It is so beautiful inside. It's so comfortable, and it just feels indestructible.
Yes, it really is. I've been waiting a long time for the new model to come out. The Defender 110, I'm telling you, it's my favorite car of all times. It's my third one. You know, I have stories of going off-road. The guy managed the group. He was like, what are you doing in this beautiful car? I'm like, I'm going off-road. He's like, are you sure? Because you can use one of ours. And then they look like Mad Max cars. I'm like, no, we're going to do this. And he was shocked.
Wow. Well, it's great because the Defender has been reimagined for 21st century adventure, and its unparalleled off-road ability, as well as its robust interior, are invaluable whether you're headed towards uncharted territory or just a weekend of exploration. The Defender 110 tackles challenging surroundings with absolute confidence. The SUV conveys strength outside and in, featuring peerless technology like an intuitive driver display and an award-winning infotainment system. That's my favorite part, to keep you connected no matter where the journey takes you. Adventure is unique to everyone, and so is the Defender. Choose from the two-door Defender 90, the four-door Defender 110, or the larger Defender 130 with the ability to seat up to 8 passengers. You'll find uncompromising performance in all three. So pack up and go even further with the Defender 110. Learn more at LandRoverUSA.com/Defender.
This isn't your average business podcast, and he's not your average host. This is the James Altucher Show on the Choose Yourself Network. Today on the James Altucher Show.
So you're 16, you're causing trouble, you get sent to jail, but why are you such a bad kid?
I didn't know that the things that were going on in my house by way of punishments and stuff were abuse. I was 11. All I knew was I was an emotional basket case. I couldn't hold anything together for more than a few days. No sport, no activities. I would just fall apart. So when I left my home, first thing I learned was crime was a tool to get out of your home and protect you. So the first time I was ever able to leave my home, I was 11, and I went and did 10 days in juvenile hall.
Oh my God.
And it was the first time I was away from my family. I was hanging out with all the bad kids. And I was talking to them, and I'm like, man, like, well, how do you guys deal with being locked in the closet and stuff? And they're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, you don't get locked in the closet? And I realized I have to leave my home. I went and saw the counselor, and she's like, well, if you keep this crime up, we're going to take you out of your home. And I was like, bingo. So I just kept doing it, and then they came and took me. And then the problem was I learned that crime was a tool to change my situation.
Wow, so that's when things changed. Because you and your brother, Ken, really started Ultimate Fighting, MMA. You really brought it to the public's attention. You were like a legend in the space. You were winning every title. I mean, how many titles did you win?
I think I won them all.
Yeah. Today's show is brought to you by Princess Cruises. If you could take a vacation to anywhere in the world, where would you go? Well, Princess Cruises sails to over 360 destinations worldwide. Better yet, there's never been a better time to plan a vacation with Princess Cruises than during one of their most popular sales of the year. It's called 3 for Free. On over 200 cruises across every destination, guests will enjoy free onboard spending money, free gratuities, and a free stateroom location upgrade. Just visit princess.com/James for details. That's princess.com/James. This episode is also sponsored by ZipRecruiter. When it comes to hiring, you need to know where to post your job to find the best candidates. It's no wonder 80% of employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site in just one day. Find out today why ZipRecruiter has been used by businesses of all sizes to find the most qualified job candidates with immediate results. And right now, my listeners can post jobs on ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/James. That's ZipRecruiter.com/James. One more time, to try it for free, go to ZipRecruiter.com/James. Frank Shamrock, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Living legend. You kind of started the sport of MMA. You and your brother, Ken, I feel really were like legends who started, ultimate fighting, MMA. You really brought it to the public's attention. I'm sure it was around, but it wasn't popular in the early mid '90s. And then you were like a legend in the space. You were winning every title. I mean, you go down the list of titles. How many titles did you win? You were,
I think I won them all.
Yeah, middleweight,
Yeah.
light heavyweight. This, that. You basically like crushed everyone, and you did it in such a way that was very unique to you. I mean, I want to get to kind of your past, present, and future, but just the way you won, you combined so many disciplines to kind of make your own style of martial art, basically, that would help you. People probably had a hard time preparing for you because they didn't know which discipline you would, yield against them. You could kickbox them, you could like strangle them, whatever it was you were doing. I don't know how somebody would have prepared for you. Not that I'm a fighter that prepares to fight for fighters, but how should someone have prepared for you? And then there's a lot more to discuss, like gel and tensions and all of these things. And then I also have a confession for you. But how would someone prepare for you?
Well, I was the first super athlete, and I was the first well-rounded fighter. So I
feel that there's not a lot of humility there.
No, it was true. Like I was, it just happened to be that throughout that study, I became that guy. So, but it was out of necessity. Like I didn't want to fight. You know what I mean? Like I wasn't into hurting people, but I didn't want to get hurt. So, I took a very scholastic and a very, street survival approach to learning martial arts. Because to me, like, I was fighting professionally, but I was trying not to get killed. Like I was trying not to get hurt. So to me, like the whole system was what Bruce Lee talked about: do the most amount of damage with the least amount of effort and the least amount of damage done to yourself.
Wait, so do the most amount of damage with the least amount of effort
and the least amount of damage done to yourself.
And one of the arts that you did study and train for in order to become this all-around, mixed martial arts or ultimate fighting champion was Jeet Kune Do, which was Bruce Lee's art form. I feel like, was that a real martial art, or was it just something that he kind of had developed and popularized? Like, was that, something real?
It was real in that on his journey, he created it. So it was as real as he could contact and commit to, and being who he was. I went on the same journey, except for I went into a cage and fought. Bruce didn't have to fight. He got to use it in theory and create a system that was mainly theoretical. The techniques were fantastic, and the techniques have been proven to work.
Like, what's an example technique that was sort of new to Bruce Lee that you've been able to use successfully but wasn't really used before Bruce Lee? This is off on a tangent on everything, but I'm just curious.
The idea of, straight blasting, the idea of, connecting straight lines.
What does it mean?
Striking. You see movies and these big, wide, circular, crazy, haymaker punches. Mm-hmm. The shortest path is a straight line. Mm. So, a lot of the, all the martial arts come from somewhere. They were made for some reason, some issue, create a martial art, kick guys off horses. His was just a personal study. He was on this journey like I was to learn about fighting. What is fighting? What is it? I'm studying martial arts. What is it really? And what he found out on the basis of Jeet Kune Do is use whatever works. And so I just took from him the philosophies, because the technical parts, we had already progressed further. There was already better ways to maximize your body, more power that can be gained. So I took from him all the philosophies and stuff and all the ideas, because I didn't have a base. I didn't have a martial art. So, when you say, how do we beat him? There was no way to beat me because there was no base. My base was whatever was needed to win.
Because I've seen a bunch of your fights, and like some of these guys, they're brutal. They want to come at you and just like crush you to the ground. And the way you fight them would be different than other people. Some people you're like restraining, and then once they're restrained, then you do what you need to do to beat them. Other people you've got to kickbox. Other people you do all sorts of techniques to win. So it's, would you say that's your school or your brand of fighting?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. My style, or what I presented, was what Bruce Lee talked about. Mm-hmm. How do you do it the quickest, most efficient, most effective way without hurting yourself?
I like the Bruce Lee quote, I fear more the man who's studied one kick 10,000 times than 10,000 kicks one time.
Yeah.
So just that idea of like repetition and really learning one thing better than anyone else in the world, and then maybe going on to the next thing, but making sure you learn that one thing first.
Yeah, and the biggest thing that I took from Bruce Lee was the philosophies, the ideas, and the theories. And what they allowed me to do was to take, he was on a life journey that included all these studies. This style is his studies. I was able to take, all the philosophies, the ideas, the theories, the understanding of the biomechanics in the human body that he studied, and take newer information, newer technologies, and just enhance it.
Like what's an example?
Just punching, footwork, structural positions. He was not a super athlete, so he didn't have those mechanics in his body. So, I became a 200-pound super athlete.
So, okay, just by background, we're going to kind of go all over the place. You were, as a teenager to the age of 21, you were in jail for like 3.5 years, right?
Yep.
So you must have gotten the shit kicked out of you quite a bit in jail, or you must have, or maybe not. Maybe you were in a lot of fights, but you had the least amount of damage, so you could inflict the most amount of damage. Maybe that's how you learned to focus on that philosophy.
Well,
I'd be afraid to go to jail at that age to get beaten up.
Yeah, it was intimidating. But, like the streets, jail is very much you have to fight. If someone, attempts to take your stuff or pressure you or, take advantage of you, like you are obligated to fight, both for yourself and then for your own race. Because if you don't fight, then your own race will come take your stuff because you didn't stand up.
I see. So
you have to fight.
And then at that point, you have no friends.
And then you have nothing. So it's like you're obligated socially to fight if you're in that situation.
Is there, and I don't know anything at all, is there anything like if you fight and lose, are you still okay because you've gained some respect?
Totally, yeah. You can lose and you can get your ass kicked, but you can't be a punk or you can't be, somebody who does nothing. Because then your own race will come take all your stuff. Because they'll be like, well, you have no value to us or to yourself.
Right, because you can't protect them.
You can't protect us. You can't protect yourself. You can't protect us. Like, you have no value. And they would literally take your own race will take your own stuff.
Like, what's some of your stuff that you have even?
Your radio, all your stuff. Like the things you live off of. Your tiny 2x2 box of stuff. So, they will come, liberate it for you.
So you get into, you go into jail your first day, you're a teenager. What's the first time someone challenges you, is in your face?
It happened in jail. It happened in jail when, because I was in youth jail, and then when I turned 18, they moved me straight to adult jail. And day one, big giant burly dude came in and tried to take my bowl of hot chili. And that guy was like 6'5". Like,
so everyone's sitting around.
Everyone's sitting at a giant table in a dorm setting, minimum security, and this big giant man literally walks in, looks down, sees my bowl, and just scoops it up and puts it in front of his. And I go, hey buddy, that's my bowl. And he goes, no, it's not. And I'm like, and he's 6'5", he's a giant man. And I'm, it's an 18-year-old kid at the time. And I go, oh man, you must have misheard me. That's my bowl of chili. And he's like, no, it's not. And I know, like, I have to get up and do something about this because he's just trying to, take my stuff. So my very first confrontation was with him. And I picked up the bowl of chili and threw it right in his face. And then when he put his hands up, I took the metal tray and started beating him over the head with it. And then after he smacked me across the room and got me to stop doing that, he came over and started pounding on me. And he was pounding on me, and then I just looked up, and there was his groin. So I attacked his groin. And when the guards came to pull him off of me, I was attached to his groin, and they were dragging me across the cell block as well.
Oh my gosh.
And from that moment on, everybody was like, hey, respect, don't mess with that guy. And so that's how
that's crazy.
So I got my respect in that jail. And then every prison is a new experience because if someone senses there's weakness or if you show weakness, prison's all about not having power. They take everything away from you. They take away all your power. And so everybody's struggling to gain power.
And the guard, I mean, this is totally, again, naive on my part, but the guards are not in there saying, hey, break it up.
No. No. And you can't tell. So whatever happens. It is what it is.
You can't say, he beat me up.
You can't tell because then you're the rat and then everybody comes for you. So it's a tough place to live, especially, coming from the streets, not having education, not having a lot of support. It was the first time I woke up and was like, wow, I really screwed up my life. I got to get out of here.
Okay, first I want to say, you spoke to a good friend of mine, Ryan Holiday, or maybe he had read something you had written about this concept of learning, which you called plus minus equal, which is to find a teacher like a mentor, find people who are aspiring and rising up to work with, and then find people to teach. Am I correct in saying that was a message of yours?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so I've totally stolen that and
I love it. Please
not
use
giving you
it.
credit at all. But now I'm giving you credit for it completely.
All right.
But Ryan did a very good job of giving you credit, and but I just love that concept because there's lots of different ways you can go with that. Like a mentor, like a plus could be a virtual mentor, a real mentor. Like for you, Bruce Lee was a plus, but he was a virtual mentor, and whereas your brother Ken or might have been a slightly older, more real mentor, and he might have had other real mentors along the line. And then your equals are all the people who are also rising up, who are, you exchange notes, you exchange ideas, you exchange techniques, and you trust them because you're all equally ambitious and trying. And then the minus, and now you run all these training schools and stuff. Minus, I think, helps you solidify what you're learning, because if you can't explain it and teach it, you probably didn't really learn it so well. Like Bruce Lee was great at explaining things. So I just love the concept. I think that could be applied to any area of life.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, I do it for everything from marriage to business to God questions. I do, I've learned after 44 years I don't know anything.
how do you do it with marriage? I need to learn this.
I have a neighbor named Les. He's been married to his wife for 47 years.
Wow.
And so anytime I can't figure it out, I walk over next door, I knock on the door, and I sit down with Les, and I say, "Hey, Les." And Les he's got 45 years. He lays it on me.
And then who are your equals?
In the marriage space, mainly just people in my community.
Yeah.
Because we're all sharing, children and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So there's a couple of husbands that were like, right here.
And then minus.
My minus, I have 3 kind of younger business professionals that I mentor, and that's also like a life mentoring. And then I have virtual people that I mentor kind of all over the world.
So it really does apply. I really do believe this plus minus equals that you talk about. It really applies to every area of learning. I find it to be incredibly useful.
1,000%. And you hit it in the minus, because that's really where the magic happens. You know what I mean? Nobody wants to be the minus, but if you don't know, you don't know.
Well,
somewhere
every plus has to. If you have a plus, that means that plus has a minus.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think that is an important part of becoming the plus, is being able to communicate to the minus. And it's not about an ego thing. It's not like giving it forward. It's like, oh, I didn't really learn this until I was able to explain it in a very simple way that I could understand, that made sense to me. So I find it very valuable in all the things that I try to learn. So just that concept that now I can't believe now I'm talking to you, because I've read it in Ryan's book. I talked about it with Ryan, and I think it was Ego is the Enemy. And then I wrote it in one of my books, and I've just kept writing about it because it's such a powerful concept. But okay, back to you're 16, you're causing trouble, you get sent to jail. Why were you causing so much trouble? Why were you such a bad kid?
You know what? By the time I was 11, I left my house and became a ward of the state. And I didn't know that the things that were going on in my house by way of punishments and stuff were abuse. All I knew was I was an emotional basket case. I couldn't hold anything together for more than a few days. No sport, no activities, because I would just fall apart. But what was happening is I was being emotionally traumatized by the abuse. So when I left my home, the first thing I learned was crime was a tool to get out of your home and protect you. Because that's how I got out of my home and protected me. I actually threw rocks at a train. And in California, that's a felony. So the first time I was ever able to leave my home, I was 11, and I went and did 10 days in juvenile hall.
Oh my gosh.
And it was the first time I was away from my family. I was hanging out with all the bad kids, and I was talking to them, and I'm like, man, how do you guys deal with this being locked in the closet and stuff? And they're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, you don't get locked in the closet? They're like, hell no, that's so horrible. And I realized
these are the bad kids who were in like an 11-year-old jail
telling me
you
how
what the
bad
hell
it is. Yeah, and that's when I was like, oh my God, I have to leave my home. And I went and saw the counselor, and she's like, well, if you keep this crime up, we're going to take you out of your home. And I was like, well, bingo. So I just kept doing it, and then they came and took me. And then when it came time, the counselor's like, well, they'll send you home. And I said, I don't want to go home. She said, well, you got to stand up in court and say, I don't want to go home. I'm doing this because I don't want to go home. And so once I did that, then boom, I was instantly awarded the state. And then the problem was I learned that crime was a tool to change my situation. So when things didn't work out at the next place, I'd be like, well, I know what to do. Commit a crime, go back to juvenile hall, see my friends, get a new placement. So I got in this cycle, which didn't stop until I was 17 and I was married. And then because I was married and I was an emancipated minor, anything that I did illegally was charged as an adult.
Wow. So that's when things change. You're not just going back to juvenile hall and meeting your friends. Now you're with the guy who's going to take your plate of chili, who's 6'5". Now, when you were 16, you had a girlfriend and a kid, or I guess you said you got married at that age, and a kid. What happened? I know eventually, of course, you went to jail. All these things happened in your life. Are you able to keep in touch with the kid from that age?
Yeah. My son, little Frank, he lives across town from me.
Okay.
And he's now 20, he'll be 29 this year.
See a big guy?
Yeah, big guy, super sweet. I graduated continuation high school with him and my wife.
Wow.
Yeah, when I was 17 years old.
Huh. So you get. I saw the before and after pictures. You get out of jail. You were like a big guy then.
Yeah.
And so Bob Shamrock, who was this, you were staying in kind of this home for troubled kids that he was running. I believe it was him who said to you, you had worked out, you were like kind of a ripped guy. He said, you're either going to be a fighter like Ken here, or, Ken Shamrock, who was his, I guess, original adopted son or first adopted son, or you should be a male stripper.
Yeah.
Did you consider the male stripper side?
I did. I maybe spent one night thinking about it, but that was, that was not my speed. And I always dreamt of becoming a champion. So it was one of my, childhood fantasies. But stripping was not.
But right. So that makes sense. But Ken at that time, I think Ken had the sense, and you didn't have the sense that, your fighting that you had been used to was kind of this street fighting almost style, like to protect yourself, to cause damage without being hurt, but not necessarily yet a martial art, because you're not learning that in jail. And he had been kind of in training, and he sort of says to himself, well, I need to put this guy in his place and kind of crush him. And so when you first kind of fought him to kind of see what this was all about, what happened?
Well, that was, we used to call it the tryout, which is...
very nice sounding word.
Right. It sounds very, pleasant. It's actually 500 squats, sit-ups, push-ups, and leg lifts, and then you spar a professional fighter for 20 minutes. And I sparred my brother because he wanted to be the guy. And he just beat the living shit. I would just beat me. It was...
And you know what? I don't understand what that means. I don't...
just beating.
I've never been... if someone slaps me in the face, I'm just going to be like, ow, don't do that again. That hurt. What? How did you... I still don't understand. If someone punches you in the face repeatedly, aren't you going to have damage?
Yeah. I was pretty banged up. I couldn't walk for about a week, and he'd also stretched out my knee tendons with heel hooks, and so I was pretty banged up.
Could there be permanent damage? Obviously there could be.
Well, I probably got some brain damage, but no. Tendons torn, and I broke a rib, and he broke my nose and stuff like that. But all that stuff heals, So it wasn't anything really serious. But it was the first wake up call. When you're I considered myself a very tough man. I walked the streets. I considered myself a very tough person until that day. And then I just woke up. It was literally like, how could another human being do this to me?
And so did you see that suddenly the difference between kind of street style fighting and, there's something almost, he's using some techniques.
Yeah. I could tell right away. It was so different from any other physical confrontation.
Because it wasn't like he was just stronger than you, hitting you harder.
Destroy. He was just destroying me. It was just crush, smash, and to my, detriment, I didn't even know what the rules were. No one told me I could tap. I was in prison. I didn't know this whole thing was evolving, becoming a sport. I didn't see or hear any of it. So I didn't know what to do. And I just fought. I was fighting for my life. So to me, it was a very different experience than I'm sure they were having. Because I'm straight out of prison. 2 days after I got out of prison, I was in the gym. and I never left. And that's how I became successful.
What does it mean to be beaten up, like
beaten.
by a professional fighter?
Just beaten. Like,
You go to the hospital, can you die?
No, not like that.
Why don't people die like
you're
in this
just
fighting?
tired. You're like you're so exhausted because if you don't know how to fight, you don't know how to use your energy or your body and the energies correctly. So besides the fear and all the angst, there's also this tremendous drain. Like you just lose all of your energy very, very quickly because you don't know what to do with it all.
Yeah, but he's also at the same time. It's not like you're running a race and getting tired. At the same time that's happening, someone's punching you in the face, punching you in the stomach, kicking you in the groin, tripping you.
I thought I was going to die. Like I honestly, because I had never been beaten up. I mean, I fight on the street. Like if you get beat up, that means you're like getting killed in an alley. So like I was never knocked down. Like I've never been beaten up. Until
Even in jail, you weren't beaten up?
No, never. No, I've never been, I always, I never mess with people. But if you mess with me, you get the one warning and then, then you get the rest of it. So, but most people can tell by my intention, I'm not playing. So no one ever messes with me.
Right.
But
what do you mean by your intention? Like, how do you give me the look that's like, don't mess with you?
Most people don't really want to fight because it's incredibly dangerous and scary.
Yeah.
And we survived by getting away. So the truth in the human spirit is they don't really want to fight. There's some other thing going on, ego, or there's some other issue. So what I've learned is I know how to fight. And I know how to talk to people that know how to see that I know how to fight. So I just tell people the truth. Like if you keep doing this, you're going to force me to do X, Y, and Z.
What's X, Y, and Z?
I usually add something vulgar like, you're going to force me to put you to sleep and stuff you under a chair. Like I say something like weird that's arresting because they were like, what? Like, did he just say that? And so I use like a weird psychological thing, but I'm honest with people. Hey, I'm not interested in that. And, I'm uncomfortable. Can I buy you a drink? And I just try to flip it. And then if they don't, then I get real, which is if you keep messing with me, I'm gonna kill you in front of all your friends. Like I just go real, and they're always like, he's either crazy or he's being real.
I feel like that works for you because I could even see you're sort of huge. But if someone came up to me and was in my face, what should I do if I don't want to fight? Like I never want to fight. What should I say to get them to back off? I wasn't planning on asking you this, but I'm just curious. Like you looking at me, like what should I do? Should I run?
Human beings should be able to de-escalate any situation.
Huh, that's interesting.
Human beings. So animals, we can't negotiate with animals, but human beings should be able to have a conversation, and you should be able to de-escalate.
But sometimes people are crazy, right?
Yeah.
So like, someone comes into a bar, picks on you, and you say, "Hey, can I buy you a drink?" And they just slap your drink off the bar. Like, no, like. And because I'm clearly easy to fight. So what would you suggest I do?
Walk away.
Yeah, walk away.
I'm
not going to say, hey, buddy.
Why? You're not going to fight.
All right, I'm not going to fight.
Think about the end game.
Right.
Are you going to fight?
No.
If you fuck with me, I'm going to fight.
Right.
And I'm going to crush you. And I'm going to lead with that so I don't get messed with. I think that's the difference in
there's
personality.
no bluffing.
There's no bluffing. I don't bluff.
Because humans probably are pretty good at determining ultimately a bluff at that level.
Yeah. And then it's no one ever comes up with, I want to fight you. Like no one ever is doing that. It's all the, I'm drunk, I was in this weird, There's all these other circumstances that make people think they want to fight you. But when you get real with people, they just lose it. And then I do a lot of, and this is what I'd recommend you do, is I do a lot of psychology when I talk to people. I'm not, confrontational. I'm not, if a guy bumps into me, I'm saying I'm sorry. Like, oh, I'm sorry. Because I don't know if he bumped into me or I bumped into him. But, I wouldn't want to be me. Right. So I'm the first guy like, oh my God, did I step on your shoe? I'm sorry, dude. Whereas most people would just, well, whatever. So I'm just very connected to it. And then, if I see a guy who's really drunk, I'll just get all medieval and, lower my voice and lean in and, be like, listen, buddy, you seem like a nice guy. And just get all.
But you're about to die.
Yeah. But, like I'm here with my family and, you're now making me very unpleasant. I'm a professional fighter, and if you keep doing this, here's what I'm going to do. And you say it nice and quiet where they're not embarrassed. And I lean right into their ear. But I'm also willing to fight. Like, if you mess with me, I will fight you.
Right.
So, but most people don't want to fight.
No, that's interesting because you even
Almost all of them.
And we're skipping around a little bit, but like, I mean, I saw in the documentary on Spike, what was the name of it?
Bound by Blood.
Bound by Blood. So what once you started kind of saying, hey, I wanna learn this, I wanna do this, I wanna compete in this. What was your initial regimen? Like, how did you start getting better?
Well, I took the same kind of scholastic schooling approach, because when I got to prison, I kind of woke up and I was like, wow, I just screwed up my whole life. I got 3.5 years to do. I have no education. I have 20 felonies. Like, I'm totally a screw up. And I realized then, all that stuff the counselors would tell me was true. I was going to screw my life up. Crime was not a good tool. Like, it was all just kind of fell on me. And what I did was, I saw all my friends from childhood there with me. I was like, this is not the way to go. So I went the other way. I went to college, I got educated, and I completely changed who I was as a human being. I changed my intentions, my beliefs. Like, I changed who I was. And my new intention was I was going to provide for my son, because my son was, a baby then. And I was going to, not be a criminal anymore. I was going to educate myself and, change my life for the better. And in that journey, Bob came along, and was like, stripping or fighting.
And so clearly he was probably even joking with you. He clearly wanted you to fight and help.
I think he was.
Ken.
I think he was dead on the 50-50. I think he was into it, because Ken had a very successful career as a stripper, and so
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so Ken was a professional wrestler, and then he, when he needed money, he would do stripping, and then he would do professional wrestling. And before the fighting got big, that's how he kind of made his money. He was, made money off his body. So it was perfectly natural for my dad to say, hey, you got this great asset. Here's the two avenues that Ken's made money. Pick one.
And to be clear, this is not the dad that had been abusing you when you were 11. He adopted you as he got to know you when you were older and so on.
Yeah.
So he adopted you and he adopted Ken, right?
Yeah, Ken first, and then he adopted me years later.
And so, just out of curiosity, what do you think comes first, actions or intentions? So did you start? So you realize, okay, I'm in jail, I'm screw up, and so on. But did you start finding things that you were interested in studying, and then kind of your intentions changed? Or did you say, I better, I don't know, go to college so I get out of this life? Or what? Maybe there's only a subtle difference, but I'm just curious what you think about it.
For me, it was real simple. I had a manila folder. Mm-hmm. I sat down with myself and God one day, and I wrote down all the things I was on the front of that folder. I was a liar, I was a cheat, I was a thief, I was a criminal, like all the stuff that I was. And then on the back of that folder, I wrote down all the stuff I was going to become. World champion, spokesman, all the stuff that I dreamt of becoming. And then all the things, all the actions, all the needs and the things I was studying were the pieces of paper in the middle of that file.
I see. So you kind of said, for each action, would this action take me closer to this side, or would this action take me closer to this side? And you chose presumably the actions that would take you closer to the positive side.
Yep. And every day when I opened it, I got to see exactly what I was now. And what got me there, which was me being who I was. Inside was all the meat. And then every time I finished, I just closed it and went, and that's where we go.
Let's stop to take a quick break. We'll be right back. If you could take a vacation anywhere in the world, where would you go? And I think I'd really like to go to Japan. I specifically want to go to Tokyo. I love big cities. I love seeing all the creativity, the way people just collide together and create opportunities, art, and experience. To me, that's a vacation, leaving one reality and entering another. And so if you're listening to this, starting to think of where you'd like to go, just know that whether you want to climb the ancient ruins of Machu Picchu in Peru or walk amongst the intricate architecture and enchanting cherry blossoms of Tokyo, Japan, Princess Cruise Lines can turn your dream into reality. As a matter of fact, Princess Cruises was voted best itineraries, and they sail to over 360 destinations worldwide. So, no matter where you want to go, chances are Princess Cruises can take you there. Better yet, there's never been a better time to plan a vacation with Princess Cruises than during one of their most popular sales of the year, and it's called 3 for Free. On over 200 cruises across every destination, guests will enjoy free onboard spending money, free gratuities, and a free stateroom location upgrade. Just visit princess.com/James for details. That's princess.com/James. If you're hiring, you know that quality hires keep your business moving forward, but you also know it can take a lot of time to find the right candidate for the job. With ZipRecruiter, you can post your job to over 100 of the web's leading job boards with just one click. Then, ZipRecruiter puts its smart matching technology to work, actively notifying qualified candidates about your job within minutes of posting, so you receive the best possible matches. That's why ZipRecruiter is different. Unlike other hiring sites, ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on the right candidates finding you, it finds them. That's why it's really no wonder 80% of employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site in just one day. No juggling emails or calls to your office. Simply screen, rate, and manage candidates all in one place with ZipRecruiter's easy-to-use dashboard. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. Find out today why ZipRecruiter has been used by businesses of all sizes and industries to find the most qualified job candidates with immediate results. And right now, my listeners can post jobs on ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/James. That's ZipRecruiter.com/James. One more time, to try it for free, go to ZipRecruiter.com/James. After Ken kind of beat you up that first time, did you say, okay, how did you start training and how did you start getting into, mastering the field? You've mastered that whole art form. I mean, now things are a little different. Like you say, techniques, training, everything sort of evolves. But back then you were not so long ago, but you were the peak. You were the giant. So what was your regimen to get there, to get beyond where anybody else had gone?
The first thing was I got a notebook because I was the only guy taking notes and drawing diagrams and pictures. Because when I read the Jeet Kune Do book, it was all notes and it was Bruce's drawings from his journey. So, and I think I got that very much from going to college and stuff in prison. I had a very scholastic, experience. So I was the only guy with a notebook for years, and that's one of the reasons I figured it out. It's because I, wrote it down, asked a question, create a theory, practice, apply. It works. Put it in stone. But it was really the focus. I mean, I put 100% of my brain to it, to where every single night when I fell asleep, I just continued training, dreaming, and going through the same theories and strategies and techniques as when I was awake. So my brain just never turned off. And that's how I was able to evolve so quickly in the sport, is once my body got strong, it's pretty strong anyways, but once my body got accustomed to the techniques and the energy needs, it all clicked.
So talk to me more about the energy needs. So obviously, again, it's back to the, you want to use as little energy as possible to cause as much damage as possible. What were some of the things you learned really quickly that you didn't know before that would preserve energy?
Balance, leverage. Our theory, our system is based on leverage. So it's like a plate on top of a ball. You always want to be the plate because then your weight is the biggest weapon. So just learning that, and how to use your weight as a weapon. I didn't realize, but Ken was just putting all his weight on me half the time. And I was going, because I didn't know what to do with all of this weight. And for me, the effort that it took to move the weight was what was making me tired.
Is that why in boxing, I kind of know the answer to this, but is that why in boxing sometimes you see particularly in heavyweight fights, you see one of the fighters just like grab a guy and they're like it seems like they're just sort of resting, but probably what's happening is the one guy's putting all his weight on the other guy, and so the other guy has to expend a lot of energy even though it seems like nothing's happening.
Yeah, you lean on them, you weigh on them, and there's a million tricks to using your energy effectively. And then the other thing is because I was studying so much, all the techniques, like I was telling you, they've evolved and they've changed. So, I was learning techniques, but also learning better ways to do them because I was studying the whole time. So I was like, what about this and that? And move your leg there and try this. So one of the reasons why I continued to evolve, I became a teacher after 6 months. 6 months of training, I was teaching other fighters because I taught people in prison, and I ran a boot camp. Like all the areas of development that I needed or thought I would need for this career, I picked up. So yeah, I mean, I think the big difference is I didn't care about being tough. I didn't care about being, the toughest guy in the room. Like I literally just wanted to figure this thing out and become the best at it.
It sounds like what you were doing was there's this, let's call it a meta skill, fighting, and then you broke it up into a lot of micro skills like balance or footwork or punching or kickboxing. So all of these are completely different skills, but each one kind of had to be learned to be an ultimate fighter. And it sounds like that's what you were doing. Because it seems like beforehand, people would either be a wrestler or they would do karate or they would do boxing. And none of those disciplines by themselves is going to let someone be, a mixed martial arts champion. I feel like you kind of have to learn all of them. And so, and it was this combination that really makes the art form. It really created the sport. So what made you realize you had to learn many, many different martial arts?
Because certain people with certain skills would affect me. And so, a strong wrestler would be able to control me, so then I'd have to, learn to use my legs and my hips more. So I was very much, because I didn't know anything, I was just, if it worked, we used it. If it didn't, I just stopped using it.
But it's the classic thing where you're doing study. It's almost like you're doing a scientific study on yourself, and what just worked against you, and like a wrestler, you just said would do something to restrain you or hold you down, and you'd have to really study to figure out, well, how can I fight that? And then the next wrestler comes along, and how can I fight that? I mean, it's the classic of not learning from failure, but learning by, because I don't like that phrase so much, but learning from experimentation almost.
Yeah, and this is one of those sports where you're using your body like intimately, so you have to experiment and you have to understand everything about it. Like we always say, the best fighter would be a ballroom dancer who was a gymnast, because you'd never catch them when they could move their body in any position you wanted to. Like, they would be so powerful with their being, with their body. And the other thing which most people don't realize, and I say it in passing because it makes people think, but I look at people's bodies and I do a complete diagnosis of your structure, your biomechanics, and what I think it would take to beat you. That all happens in like 15 seconds.
So you just point right at my forehead and push me over, and I'm
when
dead.
I see people, because I trained for 16 years every night focus. So when I see a human body, I don't see tall, skinny. I just see structures that have power.
Okay, but the average person on the street is basically all the same in the sense that they sit in a chair all day going to work. They probably don't really eat as healthy as possible. They don't really exercise as much as they should. So the average person must look all the same to you, which is just, I have to punch this guy in the gut and then knee him in the head when he bends over and he's gone.
Yeah, but if you go deeper into it, what it really comes down to is I was studying the biomechanics of the human body. They were studying fighting. I was studying the human body and how and how to maximize it, and they were studying technical fighting.
So that reminds me, I'm going to make a leap that might sound funny, but it reminds me of Leonardo da Vinci. So every artist was studying how to paint, but he was doing autopsies on bodies to understand really how to depict a human body. He was just studying, how the sun would hit, would shade the different parts of the body, so he could really understand how to draw the body in a complex way, as opposed to just understanding how to paint, which is what most people were doing back then. And so it seems here is that you evolved the art form by going that one level deeper of not just how do I crush this person, but how is the body working so that I can cause the most damage. It's almost like these imaginary points, or I don't know if they're imaginary or not, but like, oh, if I touch this person here, they're dead. So
that's how I look at the human body. So it's an assessment. It's like, and I think it's just from all the training, because body mechanics work. So I look at a human body and it's like, okay, arms are long, structure, strength, and I make it just, in my mind, there's a mental assessment which has a numerical value.
And so if you see a guy on the street, can you tell if they're a fighter?
Oh, yeah. I can tell anybody who has the intention of fighting. And I think that's the big separating factor between people that want to fight and people that don't want to fight. 99% of people do not want to fight. But there's a few people that want to fight, and you can tell by their intention. When I lower my voice and I speak with the intention that I'm going to break your face in 2 seconds if you don't stop doing that. That's why people go,
Let me know if I upset you during this podcast.
But that's why people go, oh, he must be serious. Because who else is, speaking all crazy like that?
So I remember there was one guy you were fighting, Asian guy, and it was mentioned he trained with he was willing to die, or he had the will to die, is how he trained. So kind of being, I guess you can set yourself up psychologically so that you throw yourself so fiercely into a fight without being worried about death. Almost this stoic way of looking at fighting. And this was one of our initial people you fought when your career was moving up. Do you think that's a helpful way to look at fighting? To think that you could die and be okay with that?
For sure, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it's a good way to approach life.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, one of the best sayings in Native American culture is today's a good day to die, which means you're in the right place and everything's taken care of. So you go do it. So, yeah, I mean, we always make a joke about it. People always ask me, how did you stay focused? And what do you do to train your mind, this and stuff? And I would tell this joke, but it's the truth. And I'd say it in a funny way. I say this gentle mantra to myself, which helps focus my mind. And they would lean in. They'd be like, tell me it. And it goes just like this: die, die, die. And they're like, what are you talking about? I was like, I'm trying to kill every person that I'm in front of, and I'm willing to die to do it.
And so you say that could be analogous to life, but let's say, and so there's the cliche of live life as if today's your last day. But of course, there's more nuance to it, because if you have kids and you want them to grow up and I don't know, either go to college or buy a home or whatever, you kind of have to save up for them. So you can't always live life like, okay, I'm going to spend all my money today. I'm going to, go crazy today because today's the day I'm going to die. Where's the balance there? How do you find that balance?
Well, I think you got to roll it back, because it's an expression of all things are right. The work is done. Like, it's done. So, when you're a warrior and everything's cared for, you can go out and go to the death because everything's cared for.
I see. So
when it's not cared for, you probably shouldn't go out there and fight to the death.
Right. So that again leads to that manila folder. Do you go to this side or to that side? So if not everything's cared for, okay, let's just today go in a direction where the things that are not cared for are cared for. So you could every day so you mentioned the Warriors Code just now, and you mentioned it in the documentary. What does that mean to you? What are those? What's that code?
Well, those are basically the principles of martial arts for me. Mm-hmm. So those are honor, respect, discipline, which applies to everything.
Honor, respect, discipline.
Discipline, yeah.
Honor to what? What does honor mean?
Honor is, the first thing that comes to mind is honesty. I used to have a problem with honesty, so now I'm 1,000% honest. So my word is my honor. So if I give you my word, that's all you need. If I tell you something, I'm going to tell you the truth. It's because that's honor. If I promise you something, I'm going to do it. That's honor. If we do deal together, I won't screw you because I'm an honorable person. So I run everything like that in my life. And, the factor of discipline is, listen, if you're not disciplined, you'll never be successful. You'll never guide people, lead people. You'll never achieve the next level. Physically, mentally, spiritually, you just won't, because you have no discipline.
How do you determine what you should be disciplined in?
Mind, body, and spirit. Plus, minus, equal.
So
what do we need? What are we looking for? What do we want?
I think a lot of times people might be listening to this saying, I'm 35, I'm 40, I'm 45, I'm 50. I either don't know what I want because I've spent so much time, just kind of getting through each day, or 50 plus and I feel like it's too late for me to do what I want. Well, what would you say to those people?
If you're breathing, you can do anything you want. The problem is we get caught in all these lies and we get caught in all these roles that we're living. But most of them are just social obligations or stuff we think that we're supposed to be doing. The reality is you can do anything you want. Good, bad, it doesn't really matter. I mean, you'll have to pay the consequences or reap the rewards. The truth is you're in control of every action. You can do anything you want. I could wake up tomorrow and start living like a convict again. Like I can start stealing stuff tomorrow. But that would go against my morals and everything that I've built up and everything I believe in. I see life as like a big journey. And I believe you're supposed to become the best human being throughout this journey, and you're supposed to help everybody else do the same. And if you don't, you're not that good of a person. You're an okay person. You're an all right person. But those people that go, no, I'm going to make myself the best human being possible, and I'm going to take everybody around me and do the same thing. That's how you move the world and change things. And that's how I live my life. And only because I went through such an experience, I know what the bottom's like. Like I know, we were laughing today. It was like I stood in line for government cheese when I was a kid.
That's disgusting.
And I remember standing in line and
bottom.
going, all right, we're getting the cheese. And so I told the story to my daughter, and she goes, what, cheese? She goes, where does the cheese come from? And I'm like, I don't know. But, I know what it's like to have zero. And you can always build up. You can always build up. But it starts by changing this. You got to change your mind.
Change your mind to believe that it's possible?
Yeah.
And then what's the very next thing after that?
Action. You got to take action. And here's why people get to 50 and aren't living the lives that they want to. They're not doing personal reflection. They're not writing their dreams down. They don't have a plan to accomplish it. So they're just doing what they do. But everything, I sold a movie. I just wrote it down. I'm going to sell a movie. I wrote 2 books. I just wrote it down one day. I'm going to write a book. That was it. And once I made the intention and talked to an author and a year later we have a book. Most people never write it down. They never take the intention because they're afraid they won't do it.
I think that's right. And I think people also, they look too far to the end product. Like if you said to yourself, a year from now, I'm going to have a book, that might be too scary a thought. But if you say to yourself, okay, a book, I value the idea of having a book in a year. That seems like a good intention to have. The first step is finding an author. I think breaking things down into smaller steps. Like I'm sure when you studied back in the day, kickboxing for the first time, you didn't say to yourself, okay, I'm going to kick a guy off a horse. You probably figured, well, what's the first things I need to do to strengthen my legs or whatever it is? I'm just making this up. But there's probably like micro steps with each thing that you have to learn.
Yeah, and that is the beauty of the basis of martial arts. Small incremental improvements to achieve a larger goal. And then that tying into what your body needs, protection, whatever, and what your community needs. And it's like, that's the martial arts journey. When you get that down, then you're cracking. You're so in touch with your being and the beings around you, and you're all on this positive growth mission. So it's like you can't help but come out of it a better human being.
So I never thought of it that way. So the basis of martial arts is small incremental changes to, what was the final part that you just said?
To perfection, to excellence, to
and you're never going to achieve that.
No.
So it's always small incremental changes every day. And
but imagine if you went to a place every day and the whole conversation was, that's great, let's make it better. Like just the tiniest bit better today. And then we'll do the same tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow. After 100 days, you've got 100 like mini improvements. And that's how you build people up. I did that myself because I didn't know. I just went, here's my intention, here's what I have to do. The community came and supported me, the resources came out. But it's like, until you make that intention, until you show up at the martial arts school, until you show up at class, nothing changes.
And again, also, it's interesting that you're allowed to define it for yourself. Like there's no one school of thought from 3,000 years ago that's the school. You combined all these schools to create your own style of fighting. So when you were actually kind of moving up through the ranks and destroying everyone in your path, literally, what was like the hardest fight you were in where you had to really use your brain to say, okay, he's presenting a problem and I have to figure out in real time how to solve this problem?
It was fighting Ensign Inoue in Japan, that big Asian dude.
The one who had the will to die.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's half Japanese, half Hawaiian, so they're very much the Bushido, the Bushido way. And it was about 7 minutes into the fight, he folded me over backwards and mounts me, and he's like on top of me, elbowing my face in. And
why didn't you just collapse then?
Just give up.
Well, so he's huge. It's not like just like a small guy doing this.
Yeah, he's like 20 plus pounds on me, and he's got me in the most vulnerable position. And he's just elbowing away on my face.
What does it mean he folds you over backwards?
We're standing clenched up, I was trying to knee him, so my hips were getting too close, and he went from a high grab to a waist grab, and then he pulled my waist into his and stepped forward.
He took your energy of moving closer to him, and he switched on you to kind of push that in.
And so he folds me over backwards like this, like I wrench my back, and then he jumps on top of my chest, and he's like elbowing my face in. So it was one of those moments where I thought I was going to die. Like I was like, there's no way I'm going to survive this. But I wasn't going to give up. So I was like, okay, well, there's a problem here. And that was the problem. But what I did was, I just stayed true to my intention. My intention was, nobody's going to kill me. So, I just had a moment where I was like, he's going to kill me. And then I went, wait a minute, nobody can kill me. And I got up and knocked him out.
And so how did you, though, get out of that particular situation? He's in control of you at that point.
Yeah, I just hung on and kept moving. And I could tell he was getting tired of beating on me, actually. And then the other thing that I was doing was I had learned to use my skeletal muscles to hang off people. Remember we talked about leaning on them and applying weight to them? So even though he was on top of me, I was actually hanging off of his body. So he was holding up.
But him slamming on your
face
wasn't like, enough to get
like this, and he's literally lifting me up to hit me. But he's lifting my body weight. So after about 10 times, he's tired. And so I had to kind of brave this moment where he's like,
How did you hold on for the 10 times?
I just, I made that commitment. I knew, that. Here's the thing is, I was like, they're going to have to kill me to take me out of here. I'm never going to give up. Like, this is my thing. This is my chance. I'm going to go all in. But you never know until you're at that moment. Like, you never know until death is right there and you're looking at it. And, I thought that was my moment. So I just had this, I had this moment in my spirit, which was, am I really ready? And then I went, not only am I ready, this guy ain't going to kill me. And I got, I wiggled out and, went into a firefight and ended up knocking him out.
And that kind of sort of so-called rope-a-dope style, this one where they're like just wailing on you and you do things to get them tired until finally you can switch. You did that again with Tito Ruiz.
Yeah, Ortiz, yeah.
Yeah, Ortiz. And because he was he was just out there hungry to kill you. And he was very polite about it later. He's on the documentary talking about it. But you were holding on against, into the edge. Like, what was happening there?
He was just, the next size of athlete. He's really a heavyweight, but he's able to drop down into the middleweight category. And he was just so big. He was so strong. He was the next size up. It just took so much energy to battle with him.
Were you afraid getting in the ring or no?
No, I knew I could beat Tito. This is how confident I was to beat Tito. I signed a 4-fight extension to my contract and put in the clause, if I ever publicly retire, the rest of the contract is null and void, because I knew I'd beat Tito, stand up on pay-per-view, retire, and become the first free agent.
So you knew you would beat Tito, even though in the middle of that fight, you probably also knew that you would have 30 or so punches on your face at that moment.
Yeah.
So
but he was so big. Like if you see us together, it's silly. Yeah. And when we did the poster for the fight, they literally slid out an apple box. They're like, I'm so sorry, Mr. Shamrock. And the guy slides out. Can you stand on this? It just doesn't look right. Because I'm like this. I'm staring up at this giant man. But he was just the next size up. And the next level in, physical needs. I was the first super athlete guy, but that's what really, I needed that super athleticism and the technique to beat him.
So you were talking earlier about the warrior code. When you did honor, discipline, respect, what comes next, if anything?
Well, let's see. So the mind, body, and spirit are the way. The how is the honor, respect, and discipline. And then there's a few minor mechanics of it. The idea of consistent improvement is either wrapped up in the journey to excellence, or we also call it Kaizen, small incremental improvements for practice. And it's really those like 3 concepts.
What about people who know what the right, like let's take an obvious example. Someone who smokes knows that it's probably wrong to smoke, but they don't stop. And they would like to stop even. Let's assume every possible thing. Their intentions are good. They want to stop. They're addicted to it, but there's ways to overcome addiction, but they just don't stop. Or I'll use an example personal to me. I know I should go to the gym every day, or I should exercise probably more than I do. I have just recently started going to the gym, but for the first time in like 6 years. So I should probably be exercising more than I do. But it's hard for me because I don't enjoy it. And now, you shouldn't enjoy anything that's worth having is probably not enjoyable. Like when your brother first beat you up, I'm sure you weren't having a fun time, and yet that propelled you to worldwide success. So it seems like writing a book is not enjoyable, and yet when it's done, that's what you did a good job. And but sometimes you can't do everything that's not enjoyable in order to achieve many different kinds of success. So I don't know, how should I think differently about lifting weights?
Make it fun.
How do I do that?
Do something you like to do. I guarantee you there's a physical activity that you enjoy doing that's fun and that will give you a good workout. I got a dog. I walk my dog twice a day.
So I get you walking?
So I'm walking
You don't have to
twice
worry
a
that
day. I'm
much
like
about it.
hiking and I'm walking twice a day. And even though I work out, it's still another chance for me to do a little more. But here's the thing is we all know what's good for us. It doesn't mean we're doing it. I knew, when I'm about 13 or 14, like I was a total knucklehead and that I was screwing everything up. Didn't mean I stopped. You know what I mean? Like you really need those big wake-up calls.
Well, what's something for you right now that because also we can't do everything that we would like to do in our lives. What's something for you that's right in that gray area where you would like to do more of, but you haven't yet had enough intention or motivation to actually start doing it?
Mine is even stranger because when I was 16, I was diagnosed with a spondylolisthesis. My right leg had gone numb and started to drag behind me. So what that means is one of my little vertebrae is broken off in my lower spine. And I have no stability in the left side of my lower spine. So throughout my whole career, I've had this problem.
If somebody just starts punching you in the left side of your spine.
Hit me on the left side. And I'm like, oh, no.
All right, now we know.
But recently, I met this doctor who's like, gave me a whole new understanding of my spine. He said, basically, he's like, listen, you're just a wussy. I'm like, what are you talking about? And he's like, you're thinking you have a hurt spine when you just have these muscle imbalances. Like, let me rebalance you. Let me show you the exercise to do. And I guarantee you'll never have pain again. I'm like, this is amazing. So he unlocks my back, does the thing. Everything's amazing. Shows me the exercise. He's like, you can't do this exercise enough. Do it every day, all day long. I do it every third day.
So it's not fun for you.
It's not fun. And it feels weird. It's uncomfortable, but it makes me better, like night and day better.
Is there some benefit from doing it every third day, or are you you're just losing all the benefits?
The benefit would be to have it every day, several times a day. And it takes me 3 minutes to do it. Like most of us, it's a very short period of time. But I'm like, oh, and I need a table to lay on. Like I make a million excuses not to do it. I know I need to do it.
It's kind of important because, you're not getting any younger, Frank.
It's so true.
At some point this becomes degenerative, right? So you have to start doing it.
But we all know, we know why we're overweight. We know why we're stressed. We know all these things, but what are we doing about it? And it's like, I was very blessed in that I found martial arts. And it became my way to connect with the community, learn about myself, explore things. It became my world. And, very few people have that, where you can walk into a door and you're just suddenly part of this amazing, personal development community. So to me, it was just such a powerful experience. I didn't even know it existed. I didn't know you could go to martial arts schools and all that stuff, even happened there.
Right, because again, it's not like martial arts, as you've described in this podcast, it's not just about, being able to kick a guy in the face. It's all this kind of method of excellence that could be applied to any area of life.
Anything.
And you see that really in a lot of Asian cultures that, imagine the Japanese tea ceremony is almost like a martial art, just the way every aspect is ritualized and it's sort of this movement towards perfection of the tea ceremony. So it seems to apply the same principles.
Mm-hmm.
So your career lasted a really long time. I mean, you went, I don't know the exact number of years, but you were really kind of at the top of your game for a long time, for at least, it's hard to constantly fight for 10 years.
It is.
Or longer. I don't
I
even know.
did 16 years straight, and I went undefeated for 10 years.
Undefeated for 10 years.
Yeah.
What happened the first time you lost?
I got disqualified.
Okay.
Because I need Henzo Gracie from New York. I need him in the back of the head, which I thought was perfectly legal, but it turns out it wasn't.
So what about the first time you lost? Was it Diaz?
First time I lost was Kong Lee. He broke my arm. So
I remember that.
I couldn't continue after that. That was the first time I really got hurt too. Like, wake up call, and that was when I started planning my exit.
And then it kind of after your one of your last fights, or maybe your last fight was I forgot his first name, Diaz.
Yeah, Nick.
Nick Diaz, and there's this real sense that okay, you're handing over to the next generation. What do you think he was doing differently? Or let's even take it a little further. This recent fight that happened in the past few weeks, and I don't follow the sport at all, but like George St. Pierre, the GSP, what's he doing differently where he's just so clearly vanquishing his opponents?
He's just a martial artist, and he hasn't stopped studying. Like that's where, his value is. In this one, you only are as good, in this sport, you're only as good as your study. So if you leave studying, everyone just keeps learning, getting better.
You wouldn't think that, though. You would think you're only as good as your ability to kill somebody.
Yeah, this one's literally because, you have to stay on top of this thing. And then the styles and the moves and stuff ebb and flow with popularity. Who's winning, who's doing this. So you really have to kind of stay on top of the art. And he stayed on top of it.
And when you watch him now, are you like, oh, I see what he's doing there. That's really interesting.
He's doing the same thing, but the sport has de-evolved technically. So that's the weird thing about the sport now is because television and because these mediums have gotten so big, the level of athlete has diminished a little bit.
Really?
Because now you need character, personality, presentation. There's a lot more to the presentation. So we're drawing from a different crowd. It's athletes and other people that want to be on TV and that want to be, in that type of sporting experience.
I see. So often charisma or some type of weird charisma is driving people to the top, but you have a guy like GSP who kept studying, so he's able to destroy that guy. So
he's a martial artist, and he's a super athlete, and he's still focused on martial arts. If I tried to do it, I'd be like, I'd get my ass kicked. I'm not. I don't dream about it. It's all out of my head now.
Where do you see yourself going in the next 20 years?
In martial arts?
No, just in general.
In general, I'm just gonna.
I mean, you've hit the top of the world in one area of life, so you could.
I'm gonna keep working on my community because I live in a wonderful community. Looking for ways to impact it. Our family is so blessed. Like we're healthy and we're doing really well. And really, my next thing, what I'm focused on next year, is this mental health awareness campaign and this mission. I've been greatly affected by mental health, and a lot of my clients in my community have been affected by mental health. And
tell me how.
One of my best friends is bipolar. And I've been caring for him for about 7 or 8 years. And in the journey, I've learned so much about it. I've learned so much about how public feels about it, and how he survives. And I've literally read 50 books on the subject, and I feel like I'm really educated on it in my desire to help and care for him.
I didn't know that about you and your friend. I knew you were focused on mental health, but one of the closest people in my life is affected by bipolar, and I didn't realize until I saw it in person, face to face, how different bipolar is from how the movies say portray it. They sort of portray it like, okay, sometimes you're sad and sometimes you're really happy and maybe even really energetic. It's not that way at all. When someone's in mania, it's like the person you knew has checked out and something new and sort of very horrible has checked in. Yep. And that's why a lot of these people end up homeless, because they create a scorched earth of community around them. And also a lot of them end up dead. They end up committing suicide. Like bipolar is almost a terminal disease. So why don't you think most people realize the severity of mental illnesses like bipolar, borderline personality disorder? Like these are real, neurological disorders.
Yeah, We've just in the past decade started paying attention to it, and before that, look at the culture of having mental issues. It's just been, portrayed to be, crazy people, violent people. The portrayal, um, the general message of it, it's just not, it's not good.
No,
So
and
people don't know what to do. People literally don't. When I talk to, because I talk like this, and they're like, I don't even know what to say to you. Like, how are we talking about this? Like, we have to talk about it. This is a real thing. What we see that, the human development of your brain can handle just about anything, but you need to learn in doses, and you need to, your brain's made of plastic. It'll consume, change, do anything you want it to, good or bad. But people don't understand their brain. They don't know, when everything you put in it is a computer. You're just recording. Everything you do, it becomes who you are, and it becomes how you are. People don't think about that. People don't think of your mind as a space you need to develop. And
but with
work
mental
on.
illness though, sometimes it goes one step further, which is that computer has faulty programming.
Yeah.
And the person who's let's call it the person who has the illness, he or she can't necessarily control how that input is coming in anymore, or what the output is, or they're having problems with that. And I think awareness of that's very important. For instance, there's been a lot of news in the past year about police brutality and police, killing people. It's the whole, very important issue, Black Lives Matter. But what a lot of people don't realize is that 61% of those lives are mentally ill people, and that were, killed because the police didn't realize they were mentally ill. A serious issue. Yeah. So how can we all work to raise awareness of this?
Well, I think it starts by repositioning the conversation. Mm-hmm. We're all talking about an illness that nobody can see. It's,
a lot of people don't believe it.
Yeah, some people don't believe it. Some people are against it. Some people culturally can't accept it. It's not okay. Where I was affected was understanding it. It's an idea. It's not anything other than an idea. Your brain is different than my brain. And, some of these people are super high functioning in some areas, and some areas they can't, do much. But we're all the same human being. We all have the same needs, desires. Like, we all are the same person. We all want to be useful. We all want to be valued. We all want to have purpose. We all want to have a community. And, when you say, okay, you're sick, you're never going to get better, take these pills, and by the way, we're not going to hang out with you because you're weird, you're literally giving them a death sentence. You're putting them off to pasture. And it's like, nobody in their right mind understanding mental illness would do that. Because the idea of mental illness is, hey, we need to pull them in this community. We need to get them involved. We need to get them purpose. We need to get them activated. Because how else can we maximize that human being? They're not sick. They're just different.
Right.
And it's like, until we start having the conversation of difference and idea, there's an illness there. But it's a human, malady that can be treated with human interactions. It's not like, my leg's falling off. This is literally something where two people can start making progress now. Just by, hey, you need some help? You look a little down. You want to go for a walk? Like, it's so easy to begin the actions, but no one wants to talk about it. Like, I talk to people and they're like, we can't talk about that. I'm like, why not? We have to talk about it, or it's going to become, it's still that thing. And then as long as it's that thing, people are going to disparage it, and people are going to believe silly things, and people are going to spread, rumors, and, people are going to, give it what it's been given, which is a real bad, a bad face.
Well, Frank Shamrock, who I've stolen so liberally from over the years.
No charge for that.
No, I'll give you full credit from now on. Plus, minus, equal. It's actually the greatest learning technique I've ever used for my own self. But all these issues we talked about up including the mental illness, so important, so fascinating to meet you and see the arc of how you've sort of transformed yourself again and again to to conquer these battles in your life. An honor to meet you, and I'm so glad you came on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Next time on The James Altucher Show.
Has there ever been anything in life you've really wanted? I'm sure there is.
Yes.
And when you found out you couldn't get it, did you want it just a little bit more?
Yeah, of course.
So that's what we're selling.
I really think the bottom line with your rules is self-respect. Take time for yourself. Build yourself up. I'm going to quote Warren Buffett here. He once said, "The best way to be loved is to be lovable." I think the real secret to what you two have done with the rules and with all the follow-up books is to really say, don't outsource your self-esteem. And here are some guidelines.
Yes.
Hey, thanks so much for listening. It means so much to me because I really love getting to do these podcasts and to talk to all of these incredible people. I learned so much, and I hope you learned so much as well. If you like the show, make sure to subscribe and leave a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts.
These days, we're all investors, trying to be smart with our money despite our worst impulses. But at iShares, we believe that deep down inside of every investor is a better investor. One that's just waiting to be let out. Explore iShares ETFs and insights and let your best investor out. Visit iShares.com for more information.